Daredevil was one of my favorite shows of all time. It did the character justice and established a more gritty side of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It even spawned off its own connected street-level universe, which, for the most part, I quite liked. However, that all came to an end when Netflix started to cancel their Marvel shows left, right, and center. And unfortunately, Daredevil was caught up in the crossfire. And it ended with such an amazing tease, at which we could have seen a Daredevil with its 4th season. That being said, Daredevil was, without a doubt, Marvel's greatest achievement, essentially becoming Marvel's Batman for the MCU. However, the canonicity of the Defenders Netflix universe was up in the air for a long time. When Charlie Cox returns to the MCU in Spider-Man No Way Home, a lot of people thought he was supposed to be that Netflix original version of the character. However, with Fisk's interpretation in Hawkeye, Daredevil's interpretation in She-Hulk, and the recasted Hammer in Echo, it was a very clear decision that Marvel had originally intended that these two actors play different versions of the characters they portrayed. But that just made it all the more confusing to the people who didn't know this, and all those who did and were still confused by the decision. Halfway through the filming, the original Born Again, Marvel and Disney did the best decision they could possibly make. Scrap Born Again mainly from scratch, fire the showrunners and creative heads spearheading the show, and bring back the original cast and the tone that the original Daredevil had. Now, unfortunately, Marvel did not bring back the original showrunners of the original Daredevil TV show, but they did get the showrunners and writers of Punisher. Whether you like that show or not, at the very least, they do have an understanding of the characters and the universe of that show. And to make it more in line with that original TV show, they even brought back the stunt coordinator of the first 2 seasons of Daredevil. So with the new creative overhaul, the new tone, and the creative tissue of the original series, Born Again is now reborn out of the ashes of a show that would have been, well, to put it lightly, a shit show. However, that is just my opinion of what we could have gotten. Is Daredevil Born Again a good show? Does it live up to the legacy of the heels of greatness? Will it recapture the magic of its predecessor? Well, let's take a look at episode 1 and 2 of Daredevil Born Again. With the opening minutes, the show establishes itself as a unique voice within the Disney Plus sphere. It has a very unique look and feel compared to the other shows. It also has a unique sort of coloring that differentiates itself from the original show and other Disney Plus shows. We then get reintroduced to our iconic trio, Foggy Nelson, Matt Murdock, and Karen Page, and they do discuss what they want this show to be, essentially to the audience.
Nostalgia, reverence for the past, yet hope for the future.
I do hope Foggy is right and that the show will not just be a nostalgia fest, but we shall see in the coming episodes. Our trio heads over to an iconic location from the original series, Josie's Bar, and honestly, it's great seeing them in the bar again. Karen and Matt flirting it up, and I really like that. It was very nice. I really like their relationship, and seeing them in this is really sweet.
We could just get out of here.
You and me?
Yeah.
Sounds nice. Although, I think that's a distinct violation of the Friends Code.
We then cut to 2 cops celebrating one of them quitting, or rather retiring. Detective Kim is celebrating a drink with her superior, Cherry. Cherry talks about how vigilantes are more respected than cops. Meanwhile, Kim says that, like cops, some vigilantes are worthy and some are just doing it for the sake of a quote-unquote
power-tripping assholes.
While this is going on and the bar is celebrating Cherry's retirement, Foggy is flirting it up with Kristen McDuffie. The scene is really nice and overall quite lovely, but there is something about the scene that does leave the viewer with a sense of unease, and you just don't know what it is, but you do pick up on it. Foggy then gets a call from one of his clients, and Matt picks up on it, and by God, I love this shot. The aspect ratio changes as it zooms in on Matt listening in on Foggy's call. I love it. It's really beautiful. It really shows the level of distinctiveness the show has compared to the other Disney Plus shows. Foggy's client seems to be stressed as we cut over to someone breaking into his apartment, and he perfectly kills a fly. I wonder who that could be.
Slipknot, the man can climb anything.
As the trio hears someone confronting Benny, Foggy's client, Matt then heads off to suit up, and his first appearance in the suit has the choir doing the Daredevil music with a church in the background. I fucking love it. We then see Daredevil's hardcore parkour stuff in the shadows.
Parkour!
It's a little too CGI heavy compared to how it was before, but I do think I can deal with it compared to other people online. I prefer the more practical elements, but it's a minor problem with the grand scheme of the episode. Daredevil then hears Foggy talking to Benny as he hears something is off, as we see Dex, who has more or less transitioned into Bullseye. So Daredevil rushes off back to his friends. However, Foggy gets shot along with two other cops, and out of the fog, Bullseye appears.
Hello, Karen. Hello, Karen.
Daredevil then swoops in and kicks Bullseye through the window, and we get one of the most ambitious oneers of the Daredevil series, trying to incorporate CG and practical fight scenes, and essentially the camera tracks Daredevil's and Bullseye's fight and Foggy fighting for his dear life, struggling to breathe. While Matt is fighting, he is listening in to Foggy's heartbeat, trying to keep tabs on his dying friend.
You're gonna be here any minute. You're gonna be right here. They're gonna be here any minute, okay? You just...
I just love how Bullseye knows he's essentially fucked, because last time they fought, Matt was severely underprepared, with essentially a shirt, a cloth mask, and rope around his hand. This time, Dex is going up against a fully kitted out Daredevil. As Bullseye makes his way to the rooftop and tries to make his escape, Daredevil is not having it. He is making sure he does not get away, beating the ever-living crap out of him, all while he hears his best friend's heartbeat slowly stops as Karen gives such a heartbreaking response.
Come on, please.
And Matt is in anguish. Having just lost his best friend, all Matt can do is shout "Why?" at Dex, as all he does is smile and just really plays into that psychopathic assassin side of the character. And Matt does the unspeakable. I really love the touch, the little touch that Karen being hesitant to look behind, as I like to think that in that moment she thought that it was Matt who got dropped and that she couldn't handle losing two friends on one night. As Matt mourns the loss of his friend, Cherry comes up and discovers that Matt is Daredevil. But being so distraught with sadness, he doesn't even care. However, Matt still hasn't broken his no-kill rule, as miraculously Bullseye is still alive, but still being so distraught over losing his best friend, lets go of the Daredevil mask as the choir transitions into the opening. Without a doubt, this is the strongest opening to the Disney Plus era of shows. It draws you in with such an amazing and strong, compelling reintroduction to the characters. It's heartbreaking, action-packed, and tragic. Now, the opening credits of the show are magnificent. While I do prefer the original and its theme, the opening credits perfectly illustrates Matt's world is crumbling around him. Meanwhile, Daredevil, the city, Nelson Murdoch Page, his belief, his whole world has been flipped upside down with just one tragic event.
You know you're one bad day away from being me.
But with everything around him crumbling, he can rebuild, and the opening credits ends with the crumbling pieces reforming Daredevil out of the ashes.
That was pretty good.
It's a really great opening, and I really like how the opening titles illustrate what this show is essentially going to be. It's not taking the element of the Born Again storyline like the original season 3, how it adapted the storyline. It is more or less Daredevil picking up back the pieces after such a tragic event that happened and destroyed his whole world. We then cut to a depressed Matt listening to music and the news, as it is revealed that it has been 1 year after the events of the tragic event. And, well, he and Fisk are suiting up. Yes, Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. And we see that Vanessa has taken over the business of being the head of the criminal underground, essentially. But as the roller doors open, Fisk still has the power and the fear of those around him. And it really shows that even though Vanessa is trying to be that calm individual, she cannot compare to Wilson Fisk's just pure intimidation factor. Fisk then informs Vanessa that it's time, as he wants to go legit as mayor of New York City. However, there does seem to be some friction between the two of them, as from the conversation heard, Fisk just up and left the business. We then cut to a show called The BB Report, and it is run by BB Urich, who is Ben Urich's niece. Now, I am wondering, in the original version of Born Again, was she intended to be Ben Urich? If so, I'm glad that they really did change her to Ben Urich's niece. It's a nice touch that ties in nicely with the original first season of Daredevil, and the whole point is to establish the multiple viewpoints of the citizens of New York City. It's a great way to establish the average New Yorker's point of view of when it comes to the events happening in the show. But why is it in the 4:3 aspect ratio? Is retro the new norm in this universe? I do hope that BB's storyline of her being a reporter does tie into the main storyline later down the line, because if it is just relegated to news reporter who comments on current events, that would be really lame and a waste of her character, when we could be spending more time with Daredevil and his associates. We then cut to Matt walking in his new swanky office with his new lawyer buddy, Kirsten McDuffie. Now, she is playing the supportive friend to Matt, as she is checking in on Matt, who will be talking at Dex's sentencing. She also asks if he's heard from her, which we could probably suspect who she is. Matt then talks about how Bullseye murdered Foggy and Justice is not there because, well, he lost his best friend. Until he hears Karen entering in to witness the sentencing of Dex. Matt finishes his speech, and it is quite moving and heartbreaking.
I don't get to see him again. We don't get to see Foggy again.
Karen and Matt speak after the trial, and it's hard to see these two being so heartbroken. Seeing them in the opening was truly heart-warming, and I really liked the coupling. But in this scene, it shows that the loss really drove the two apart.
I refuse to believe that a tragedy had to destroy everything.
But it did.
Karen then gives his Daredevil horn back to Matt, and it's nice to see that Karen still believes in Daredevil, and that even though he has lost faith in Daredevil, she still hopes for Daredevil. Matt then hears on the news that his greatest enemy, Wilson Fisk, is running for mayor as he leaves his food to burn.
Did you start a fire?
Fisk is talking to his staff members as one of the young supporters of his is telling him he is fine, especially with the younger generation. Meanwhile, McDuffie tells Matt to meet a potential client. While he is walking to the meeting, he hears a lot of people discussing about Fisk, how New Yorkers are reacting to Fisk, which again makes me wonder why we even need the BB report. If we have Daredevil doing this instead, Matt is very much a listening guy, so we could just have him be listening in on the people's thoughts. But I guess BB will have to factor into the plot later down the line, right?
You really better have a point.
Matt then meets with Heather Glenn. Now, I don't really know much about her. I do know she is from the comics, and I know that a lot of characters in this are from the comics, but I don't really know much about her, but I do know that, at the very least, she is a love interest for Daredevil, who, coincidentally, McDuffie secretly set the two up on a coffee date, and it is a really nice scene. The two have great chemistry, but throughout the whole scene, all I can say in my mind was, "What the fuck are you doing, Matt? Karen was right there. Go after her, man. Get this harlot away from you and go after her. Go. Go. I'm not even kidding. Go after her, bro." But yeah, he confronts McDuffie about setting them both up on a blind date, but then later tells her to text him her number. He then meets up with Cherry, who has now hired as a investigator for Murdoch. And this is when it hits me that these two characters definitely feel like holdovers from the original iteration of Born Again. These two characters serve as the same function as Karen and Foggy, but flipped. Cherry is essentially the private investigator, but knows Matt's real identity, while McDuffie is a lawyer who is best friends with Matt, but doesn't know his identity. Cherry was investigating Fisk, but well, essentially he says that he's clean.
If I didn't know better, know him better, I'd say he sounds sincere.
And yeah, I can understand why Matt would seem like he sounds sincere. But after the events of the Daredevil show, where he is convicted of literally everything under the sun, including freaking murder, they really need to justify how the fuck he is running for mayor. Cherry asks if he should continue investigating, and he is in two minds about it, but ultimately lets it go. The BB report then gives us two perspectives of how New Yorkers view Fisk. They even mention an iconic moment.
He supposedly crushed a guy's head.
Good rumor, crushed his head. I'd actually like to see that.
As Matt listens to the debate, Fisk says that he wants to outlaw the vigilantes roaming around New York, and this prompts Matt to finally have a little chat with Wilson Fisk.
Well, it's been some time, hasn't it?
Yes.
They then go to a diner, and the scene is just as good as the clips you have seen about it is. It's really good, with some great lines.
I tried to mentor someone, but... well, that's the closest I've come.
Didn't she shoot you in the face?
Now, younger generation, what can we do?
Incarcerate, maybe. Kill? Never.
I wonder if your darker half would agree.
In the scene, Fisk even mentions the promise he kept to Matt, which I quite like that the writers remembered the deal Matt and Fisk had. Even though, in hindsight, the deal was very much in favor of Fisk's side. I do like that it does bring up Matt's Catholic belief. Now, he doesn't admittedly outright state that he's Catholic, but it's there to be a nice moment, and it comes out pretty much like an outright threat to Fisk.
So if you step out of line, I will be there.
But Fisk asks who is talking, Matt Murdock or Daredevil, and they both warn each other that if one of them goes back to their old ways, they will come after each other, which, as the show is heading, you know that it's going to happen one way or another. Matt then takes out his new friend, acquaintance, Catholic fuck buddy. Well, he takes her out to a dinner date, but as they walk home, it turns out that Fisk has indeed won the New York mayor election. She then asks, is there history between them?
Our paths crossed a few times over the years.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly, Matt.
Pick her name again! Go ahead!
Vanessa then comes to congratulate Fisk on winning, and Fisk tells her that he knows that she's banging some other guy named Adam, and she asks him not to kill him, and he quote-unquote promises, yeah, Vanessa, you're asking the former kingpin to willingly get cucked. Yeah, that ain't happening, honey. Matt then drops Heather off at her apartment, and she says,
you can't carry the weight of a city on your shoulders. New York will get by without you.
She then kisses him, which, good on you, buddy. I'm glad to see a romance in a comic book story by Marvel. I missed them. Granted, not all of them were great, but I do like a little bit of romance in my superhero stories. Matt and Fisk then brutally aura farm for the camera, as it makes the two characters seem like they are looking at each other. Fisk with the white light showing that he is now a kingpin elected by the people, while the red light flashing is signaling that half of Matt is still in the dark and he is still deciding if Daredevil should return. And that was the opening episode for Daredevil Born Again, and honestly, I quite liked the episode. Now, it is definitely a drop from the previous 3 seasons of Daredevil, yes, 100%. Now granted, that this is just the first episode. We still have episode 2 to review. However, Foggy's death will be, without a doubt, a controversial moment within the fan base. I've already seen some fans consider it the Last Jedi of the Daredevil series. I, for one, am very saddened by the decision. I am okay with it, though. As much as I don't really like killing off characters, I do think that it was a very effective opening. Now, it's entirely possible that they do retcon or they do have some kind of decision to bring back Foggy, as he has now been confirmed to come back in season 2. But we'll see what form Foggy comes back next time. Overall, I like the opening. It is the best Disney Plus opening episode, and I like the return to the gritty aspect of the show. I am mixed with the decision of killing off Foggy, but I can't say that it wasn't an effective way to open the series. I didn't really like the CG. I thought that was probably the weaker aspect of the show, as the CG was probably a rush job. Now, maybe they might improve on it in the future, but we'll have to see. On one final note, I do like how the first episode tries to establish both Matt and Fisk trying to move past their, past. Matt is trying to move past from being the vigilante and not the devil of Hell's Kitchen, whilst Fisk is trying to go legit.
There can be no gray area.
We know that something is gonna pull them back in, but we don't know what. But we may see it in the next episode. Now, on to episode 2. Now, before the episode begins, we start out with an in-loving memory of the actor who plays White Tiger, which is really sweet to the actor. I really like that. But why have I feel like I've heard this name before? Anyway, after a recap, we see Fisk prep for an announcement to New York to wish them a Happy New Year. But really, he essentially wants New York to be a vigilante-free city, which I see where he is coming from. But then I realize, didn't he kill a shit ton of people? And was arrested for a shit ton of crimes in season 3? But a man died to send him to prison. What was his name again, Fisk? Please remind me.
Nadim!
We see a man encounter 2 guys shaking down someone, and our good Samaritan jumps in to save this person. The victim escapes, however, one of the assailants gets killed by an oncoming train. Entirely his fault though, so it could be an easy self-defense sort of claim. But it looks like the 2 of them were in fact dirty cops, so he's honestly pretty fucked. After the opening credits, we then cut to the BB report, where once again she is interviewing New Yorkers, but this time about Daredevil and vigilantism, which seems to be a current through line throughout the series. Is there a need of vigilantism in the city? Do New Yorkers really need masked heroes to save them? I swear to God, if they go down the line of, you're a relic from the past, we don't need heroes like you anymore, we've got this and that, it will be a very predictable, cliched sort of thing to do. Fisk is trying to maintain stability in the city by keeping on some of the people still working in positions of power, such as the police commissioner. The camera then pans down to see Fisk's bruised hand. Now, is it a result of a beating, or was he punching something else? Now, we don't see the result of this, so it is easy to interpret one of 2 ways. Either Fisk's darkness is coming out, or it's just us looking too deep into it. But that's neither here nor there. It is ultimately up to your interpretation. His subordinate, Sheila Rivera, informs him that he should talk to those representatives as soon as possible in order to gain their trust, in order to support him throughout his time as mayor. She then later informs him that Vanessa being missing from the addressment was a blow to the senior community, as he is trying to win over not just the youthful demographic as mayor, but also the older generation. So Fisk needs to somehow get Vanessa on his side for these political endorsements. Matt is meeting with a client until he hears someone getting beaten up by the cops, so he meets with them to find out the situation, and it turns out to be the guy from the subway fight from the opening. His name is Hector Ayala, and I swear I have seen him from somewhere. Where is he from?
Doesn't matter. You the public defender?
No, I'm a defense attorney.
Holy shit! I think I know who he is.
Opulence is sinful and we all pay for it. You suffer with me.
I freaking knew it. He's... Holy shit. They got the GOAT to play the White Tiger. Bro, he played an awesome villain, and he got to play the White Tiger. Damn, it's really tragic that he passed away. Rest in peace, bro. You're an amazing actor, and I can't wait to see how you pull off White Tiger. Now, Matt is able to detect that Hector's story about the cops tripping is indeed accurate based on Hector's heartbeat. However, when Matt pushes him on if he's entirely truthful, Hector's heartbeat increases, indicating that he's hiding something. Obviously, we know that he is White Tiger based on the promotional material, but Matt doesn't know that. But based on what he's feeling that Hector is telling the truth, he decides to take on the case. So he has a cautious attitude towards him, but ultimately he does accept the case. The scene ends off with what most clients would probably say to him.
Wait, hold up. You're blind.
Yeah, he's probably heard that like 100 times. Meanwhile, Fisk is discussing doing massive reforms into New York City to shake up the city. However, his subordinate, Sheila, is informing him to maintain the status quo. Yeah, I should probably introduce these two, right? This is Buck Cashman, which, I mean, he just looks like a great guy with that face and that stupid name. And this is Daniel Blade, who most likely represents the younger generation who supports Fisk. He is a little bit of a kiss-ass though, so I am really interested in seeing how his storyline plays out with the show. Anyway, Fisk and other people are caught in traffic, are held up by this hole in the ground. So Fisk comes out and tells the workers to fill it up now, making sure not to waste time of the precious people that are stuck in traffic. And this is sort of a minor turning point that Fisk is trying to make to the public, that he is getting stuff done by pushing through and crossing the red tape. But this is Fisk bypassing the logistics, and it is a slippery slope which will probably veer him back on the track to becoming Kingpin. And it's very much a minor thing. However, with the slippery slope of how Kingpin can get there, you can totally see that just bypassing the red tape and bypassing all these laws, he can slowly go back to the way he was of becoming the Kingpin. Although, it is funny as this is probably the second time him seeing a hole in the ground. I once saw a group of mystical Chinese-Japanese ninjas dig a massive hole in the ground, and I'm assuming it was meant to go down to China. However, why would they ever do that when they could just fly to China? Surely they could use the frequent flyer miles. Matt then talks to McDuffie and Sherry about the new client he's picked up, and unfortunately they're not impressed. However, he is able to convince them while also getting Cherry to look more into Hector, as he suspects that there is something up with him. Matt and McDuffie face off with their opponent in court, and the judge is clearly not having it with Matt, very much siding with the DA on this. So unfortunately, Matt doesn't get Hector on bail and must be locked up before his trial. We then see BB properly in the flesh meeting Blade. No, not that one. The white one. There he is. Anyway, Blade gets her into talking with Mayor Fisk for 5 minutes. But before that, we get a real awkward moment for those who have watched the show.
Ben Urich. I knew him. He was a good journalist. I'm here to kill you.
And then the interview quickly goes a lot colder as she asks some uncomfortable questions in regards to the Commissioner of Police and his wife. And that's two things that Fisk needs to improve on in terms of a better communication with the Commissioner and getting his wife to appear during these addressments. And I think Fisk, after the interview, was impressed by this as he acknowledged that she came in with those two questions that he knew he needed to make up for. And he clearly admits that she is very much a person that is seemingly underestimated a lot. So he wants to use that. To what extent, we shall see in the future. But it seems like he is going to exploit her to get her to unwillingly be on his side. We cut to Heather's book signing, and she discusses her next book, which, well, it's gonna be a very topical thing when she finds out who Matt is.
How we present a curated version of ourselves, like through filters on social media or masks.
While this is going on, we see the camera focus on someone, and during the signing, he wants to get in contact with her and become a client. Now, we don't know who he is yet, but the general consensus is that he's Muse. I mean, he looks really fucked up, so I can totally buy this guy being a psychotic killer, and this guy has this weird sort of look to him. But after the weird guy leaves, another weird guy, we know, Buck, shows up for a signing. Great. I'm sure this won't connect to the main plot. Fisk then meets with the Commissioner after the funeral of one of the cops who died. And I gotta say, I love the actor who plays the Commissioner. He really lays it into Fisk, and he really gives off Commissioner Gordon vibes. He even has the mustache. I mean, this guy has the balls to say this to Fisk's face.
Once a thug, always a thug. See you around, Kingpin.
God damn!
Cherry and McDuffie meet with Hector's wife. McDuffie tries to convince his wife to show up in court in order to show support to Hector and to make him seem like a good husband. Meanwhile, Cherry is investigating Hector when in fact he discovers that Hector is the White Tiger. Thank God he's Puerto Rican. Otherwise, the naming convention could get him easily cancelled. Matt and Helen are having a lovely date, and I'm happy for him. But then I remember that this is Daredevil show, and he's had like 3 love interests in the last show, so I ain't holding my breath. This is going to end well. But I do admittedly like their chemistry together.
Later, I can give you a taste.
I'll take the check, please.
He'll make it up to you later.
With interest, I promise.
I'll collect.
They look thirsty!
Matt then confronts Hector about his other activities, but I do like how Matt is coming at Hector while Hector says that the people need a hero as there are missing people, and he also points out that there is no Daredevil now. And I do like the little chuckle that Matt does, showing that, yeah, even though he's hung up the suit, the people still need heroes, something to believe in. Matt is able to break through to Hector as he seemingly seems to be more open with Matt after discovering the truth. Hector also reveals that the guards and prisoners aren't too welcoming to Hector. I wonder why. Fisk then meets again with the Commissioner as the Commissioner tries to hand in his resignation. And it appears that a lot of the police department will be following suit. But he is threatening a former criminal leader, so Fisk has to get his hands a little dirty. Whoa, 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 no, not like that, not like that, just blackmail. Yeesh, guys. So, yeah, the Commissioner has a little family in Philadelphia, which, in terms of secrets, compared to Fisk, it's probably on the low scale, but if it gets leaked out, I can totally see this ruining an otherwise good man's career. Fisk then gets him to agree to a deal by not giving a cop's pay increase, no overtime pay, and no expanded cadet class. Fisk, what the hell are you doing, bro? At least expand the fucking cadet class. Do you not want cops in New York City? But anyway, so the commissioner accepts the deal, but man, he is, by God, he's freaking great.
Alright. Last day. Be careful what you wish for.
Freaking hell, bro. The balls on this guy. I fucking love it. He has the balls to say that to Kingpin straight up to his face. God damn. Respect, man. Respect. Matt then talks to the judge and the opposing counsel about Hector being the White Tiger, having no bearing on the case. Luckily enough, Matt is able to win this one, and was able to convince the judge that nothing involving his time as the White Tiger can be used as evidence, and the jury cannot discuss the fact that he is the White Tiger, and have their opinions swayed by this fact. And once again, the BB report comes back with people talking about the cops. Again, a nice way to keep track of what the people think of these current events connecting the story, but at the same time, do we really need it? Cherry then talks to Matt about Hector, and Cherry thinks that Matt's reason for pursuing the case is because of the fact that he is a vigilante, while Matt, who believes Hector to be innocent, has to stand up to Cherry that he does think that Hector is innocent regardless of his vigilante persona. Cherry then tells Matt that he does like the Matt that he has become, the fact that he is no longer Daredevil and is just Matt Murdock, blind lawyer. Matt then goes to church, which, as a big fan of Daredevil, I quite like that after the events of Season 3, which challenged his faith, belief, and the no-kill rule, he is back to openly going to church, so it's good to see Matt keeping up with his churchly duties as a Catholic. After church, Matt then follows the dirty cop from the opening, as he is his only lead to the witness from the opening. Matt then calls Heather, but it seems like that she's taken on a new client and has to delay their dinner plans. And it turns out that Buck is getting her to sign a contract in regards to her taking on Fisk and Vanessa, and I can't believe I'm saying this, as her patients.
Well, isn't that convenient?
Yeah, so that little signing that Buck went to, it was just to scope out Heather, and essentially Fisk and Vanessa are going to couples counseling, which I didn't think I would ever see, but here we are, I guess. They touch on a little bit within the intervening time between Season 3 and Born Again, so you don't have to watch any of the crap that came before this show, but man, Vanessa, did you really have to say this?
Relationship between management and labor was robust and fulfilling.
Yeah, I bet Adam did most of the filling. Matt then overhears that the cops have found the witness from the opening, and the cops are heading over to clean up their mess. So Matt tells Cherry to head to a location as Matt heads over to the witness place in order to save him from the cops. Matt is able to get him out using his impressive skills of negotiating. Nah, he just heard the cops were on the way to kill him and told him to go to the location where he sent his friend. Matt then lets the cops in as they search for him. We then see the cops, well, they have a tattoo of Frank's skull signature. And we all know how Frank feels about dirty cops. They ask Matt where he went, but Matt has a nice little retort.
Listen, man, I'm visually impaired. I'd love to help.
They beat the shit out of him, but they have to shut him up. And this is probably the best scene in this episode, as what appears to be Matt talking to the cops. What I actually think is that Matt is talking to his
Darker half.
And as the gun is loaded and locked to his head,
Rage cannot stay inside. It needs to go somewhere, or it becomes a poison.
the devil appears. Bro, he just went full bat flick there.
I find that when this rage cannot stay buried in me for one more second, that a primal scream is the only satisfying release.
What a way to end the episode. Daredevil is now back into Matt's life. So, that was the 2-episode premiere of Daredevil Born Again. It was pretty good. Admittedly, out of the 2 episodes, I do think that episode 1, while controversial, is a much stronger episode than episode 2. It establishes the tone of the season, the new dynamic, and where our characters are now in life. Episode 2, unfortunately, falls into establishing the wider plot that will be happening in the future. We have a court case with White Tiger. Mayor Fisk is blackmailing the commissioner. Matt's new love interest will have 2 new clients. One who is like 99% confirmed that he is Muse, and the other, Wilson Fisk and his wife. Oh, and we have to establish the crooked cops who idolize Frank Castle. The second episode overall falls into the trap of being the setup episode. Now, that's not admittedly a bad thing, as long as the payoff exceeds the expectations for the fans. The first episode also feels very much as though it does have an intended vision. With the second episode, I did feel as though that the show was casting a wide net of ideas, and definitely feels like it got caught up in the original vision of the Born Again show. I will say, though, that I did like the ending of the episode where Matt just lets out his inner devil. It was a great way to leave fans wanting more, and a great hook in for episode 3. Also, I want to preface this, I don't really have evidence to prove that episode 2 got caught in the sort of torn nature between the original vision and this vision, but for me, it did feel like that. A negative I do have with the show is the CG. I didn't think it was great. I do hope that in the future, say in a future episode or a second season, that they can use the criticism of the CG to either tone it down or reutilize it in a minimal capacity. Or hell, even just brush it up if they have a better budget or a clearer vision, so they don't have to waste money on certain rewrites. The cast has done an amazing job so far, in particularly Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. They are absolutely fantastic as they were 10 years ago. The newcomers, the regulars McDuffie and Cherry, are a little on the bland side, but we will see how their characters pan out within the series. But I did think that Heather was a nice addition. I like the romance brewing with Matt, even if I do prefer Karen and Matt. But so far, I thought this was the best Disney Plus opening to a show. I quite enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing more of Daredevil Born Again. But thank you all for watching this video on the 2-episode premiere of Daredevil Born Again. It shows a lot of promise, but we will see how the future episodes develop. If you haven't done so, please like the video and comment your thoughts on the 2-episode premiere. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you hated it, please let me know. I would love to discuss it with you. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, it keeps me going and making content, so please hit that button. And as always, remember to take care and Have a good one.
So how'd it go?
Good. Pretty good.